So here's the deal. Ricciardo is officially leaving McLaren for the 2023 season, and now he needs to find a new team to drive for. Think about it. Piastri is coming to McLaren, and Alpine probably wants to put a younger driver who shows more promise, just like Piastri, in their car. So which teams will have open spots? Stay with us until the end of this video to find out. Before we talk about Ricciardo possibly going to this surprise team with the coolest boss in racing, let's talk about how Ricciardo's season has been going. So far, Daniel has only gotten 19 points out of the 95 points that McLaren has earned this year. He's not doing as well as Norris or even coming close to matching his teammate. Only a couple of times did Ricciardo manage to finish better than his teammate. One time was at the Azerbaijan race and the other was in Montreal, but with Norris getting third place in Italy and constantly fighting the two Alpine drivers all by himself. Ricciardo's spot at McLaren is now in serious trouble. This summer break, McLaren had no clue that things would get this bad, and neither did we. So when they were trying to sign him, they might have promised something that they're definitely sorry about now. They gave Ricciardo the power to decide if his contract could end early, before 2023. This is the only reason why the team can't officially sign Oscar Piastri right now, because they have to figure out the buyout deal with Ricciardo. People are saying that the Australian driver has asked for a huge amount of money for his buyout agreement, around $21 million. Since no other team would want to pay that much, for a 32-year-old driver who's getting worse, Ricciardo might just sit out next season. But now that McLaren has agreed to the buyout deal, let's see what happens next for Daniel. But this video isn't about that. It's about Daniel's choices if he decides he wants to keep racing in the 2023 season. After all, he is a Formula One driver, and sitting out a whole season and then trying to get back in a car from 2024 and later could be really hard to do. This is especially true since Ricciardo reportedly wants to replace Hamilton starting in 2024, but Hamilton has no plans to retire anytime soon. Ricciardo has finally spoken up about his future while everyone's been talking about Oscar Piastri. He said that retiring isn't something he's thinking about right now. I could probably keep going. I believe I still get excited about it because I still believe I belong in Formula One and can do it. That's what really gets me pumped up, and I love it too. I know that any weekend it could be there, like it could be just around the corner, you know. The truth is the good times you get are just so amazing because so much work goes into it. So then the good feeling and reward is pretty awesome and really spectacular. It's too bad that he's having trouble with McLaren right now and might lose his starting spot. This is mostly because McLaren currently has a car that's getting worse, which was reported by Lando Norris. He said that the car is doing better than it should, and they're lucky to be fighting for fourth place. The technical director, James Key, also said that the car is less flexible compared to 2021, but with Ricciardo not being able to match his teammates' speed by a huge amount, one of the biggest differences on the whole grid when you compare how teammates do in races and qualifying. His seat is really in danger. But now that McLaren has agreed to the bid-out deal, let's see what's next for Daniel. What choices does he have, and should he think about going to Haas? The first choice that Ricciardo has is to go to the team that literally created and trained his rival Oscar Piastri. Ricciardo has been with Alpine before it used to be called Renault. From 2018 to 2020, he got a couple of third-place finishes while he was there and finished fifth place in the 2020 season. In his first season, he was able to do better than Nico Hülkenberg, his teammate, which shows that Ricciardo understood how Renault worked much better than he understands McLaren. Otmar Schaffnauer, Alpine's boss, said that the door is always open for Ricciardo if they want to continue where they stopped when Cyril was Renault's team boss. But it's unlikely that Ricciardo will go to Alpine, since the team is looking for a long-term solution now that they're doing really well. They're currently fighting for fourth place in the championship, and their car has had some reliability problems, especially with Alonso. But we've seen that it can perform well when the right person drives it. If the team wants to find a more stable and improving solution instead of a getting worse solution for that spot, Mick Schumacher could be the perfect choice that would be most like Piastri for that position. Speaking of which, It seems like finishing 8th and 6th in Silverstone in Austria wasn't good enough for Mick to stay at Haas. The young German driver said that when he asked Steiner what it would take to keep his contract with the team after 2023, his boss said, "Score more points." We've seen that this has been hard to do after the Austrian race. Even though Mick was about to score his first point in Canada, reliability problems happened and he had to stop racing. Now, reports say that Günther Steiner has contacted Daniel Ricciardo to offer him the seat at Haas based on certain things happening at Haas recently, like putting Giovinazzi in practice sessions later in the season in Italy and Austin. The team is probably already looking for someone to replace Mick. Now, the question is, should Ricciardo accept this offer if they give it to him? And will it actually make his career better? First, let's talk about the money, because you know how this sport works. Money talks. Ricciardo would have to give up the really good $21 million that he's guaranteed from McLaren and accept much lower pay. For comparison, Magnussen is currently making $7 million at Haas. The team will probably raise the pay since they are finally scoring points and aren't in last place, like the previous 2 years, but there will be many improvements in Ricciardo's career if he decides to join Haas. First, the team is getting better, which means he won't be fighting for scraps if he manages to perform as well as Magnussen. After all, he has been fighting them with his McLaren all season long, so he couldn't be much worse than that. Second, he won't automatically be treated as the second driver. Even though Magnussen has more experience with the car, we've seen that Mick has been making moves on him when he was faster, and the team put him first in those 2 races. In Azerbaijan, we've seen how team orders went between Ricciardo and Norris. Even though the Australian was supposed to be the priority, he still lost more positions because of bad team tactics that wanted to help the slower driver, which in this case was Norris. When you're not the designated number 2 in the team, you get more options, like having a bigger say when it comes to developing the car. This is something Daniel had at Red Bull and at Renault, but really missed at McLaren. At age 33, Ricciardo's career is far from over. Even though he said that in a statement we mentioned earlier in the video, his choices are really limited to just a couple of teams. Another thing that Ricciardo can really be thankful for is that teams are still wanting him and giving him a driving spot, considering how he's performed in a top team car. Even though, as we said, it is getting worse and he isn't the only one to blame for his 19 points in the first half of the season. Ricciardo could very well be close to retirement. But Haas and Alpine wanting him as their driver should give Ricciardo hope. And you never know, there could be a season that will be like Gasly's story. When he was put in a Red Bull for 2019 for 13 races, he failed to perform. But when he was put back at AlphaTauri, he was consistently finishing high and even got his first win. As Ricciardo said himself, you never know when the next Perez story is going to happen. What do you think will happen next between Ricciardo and Haas? Do you think the Australian should answer Steiner's calls and accept the seat, and possibly get his glory back with the American team starting next season? Let us know in the comments below. Want to know more about F1? Click on the video on your screen.